In about 3 minutes or so. Who are we missing?
Joy and Thelma.
Thelma. Somebody's coming on, Carol. That's Jenny is there. I wonder where Joy is. I hope everybody realized this was at 5:30.
I spoke to Joy earlier today and I reminded her the time, so I'm sure she's going to be
Okay, all right.
joining us momentarily. Hey, Joy.
From the kitchen door.
Just going to resend Joy the link really quickly.
It was working fine when I used it a few minutes ago. Yeah. We'll wait a couple minutes here before Joy was asking for the link, Matt.
Yeah, I'm about ready to copy it to her.
All right. Who's 8434?
Thelma.
Oh, good. Okay. Thelma's on. Good. Hey, evening, Thelma.
Good evening.
Can you give names to people's numbers, Matt, as the host?
I did. I'm the one.
Oh, I just saw it. Thank you. Okay, great. Okay.
Karen, I've allowed everybody to share the screen, so I think you should be able to do it. Let me know if you have any problems.
Okay, thank you.
All right, we are waiting on one council member to join us here. If everybody's wondering why we haven't started.
No, that's fine. I just sent it to her, but Lisa, the copy invitation feature didn't work, so I just did a straight copy of the link. So
I've provided everybody with a link to our calendar on our website. That's how Catherine got in.
Yeah, well, if Joy doesn't pop in a moment, I want to make sure that she's got everything she needs.
Oh, here she is.
Okay, good.
Great.
Hey, Joy, how are you? Okay, unmute. You're muted, Joy. There you are. Okay, great. All right, good. All right, I'm going to call this work session to order of the Nancock Town Council at 5:31. Couple of preliminary things. This is a work session. By law, we can't vote on anything. Strictly a work session. We also will not be taking any public comment. There'll be time to do that at the regular council meeting coming up. So Lisa, would you take the roll, please?
Mayor Foskey,
Present?
Councilmember Bloxham,
Present.
Councilmember Marino,
Present.
Councilmember Krause,
Present.
Councilmember Berger,
Present.
Councilmember Oswald,
Present.
Councilmember Gillespie.
Present.
All members are present. We have a quorum, sir.
Okay, thank you. All right. All right, the first item on the agenda tonight, we have two items on the agenda. First is a presentation by the Nancock Main Street Initiative. And we will follow that up with a budget workshop for the 22 budget. So we'll start off with a presentation to the Anacog Main Street regarding town logo and branding. And I guess, Karen, is that, you going to lead that off?
Yes, I am. So I
Okay.
am going to hopefully. Can you all see this?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. Then let me, I first want to start by introducing Pete Letty, who is the president of Auto Marketing, which is based in Norfolk and Virginia Beach. And Pete has worked with many clients. You'll see he's going to start this off, and then I will end. We really thank you for letting us have some time, because I know you've got the working session today, but we also thought it was important to give you an update on where we are with the branding for Onancock. There's been a lot of work over the last 9 to 12 months, a lot of stakeholders, and give you this update. We'll be really brief, give you a week then so you can think about it. I'll send you my email. And so if you've got questions after you see it, because then we'll bring it to the full town council next Monday for hopefully getting your endorsement. So with that, I will introduce Pete, and he can do the first part of this.
Hello, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. As Karen mentioned, I'm Peter Letty, president of Auto Design and Marketing. And Karen is absolutely correct. We are headquartered in Norfolk, but have a studio in Virginia Beach. Auto is what we would refer to as a fully integrated marketing firm, meaning we handle all of our services under one roof. Everything ranging from photography and video production to website development and print advertising.
Pete, you just let me know, because I don't know when to advance the slides for you.
Sure. All right. And you can advance.
Okay.
And you can actually advance from this as well.
Okay.
We thought you would want to know some of our clients. On the Eastern Shore, we did the branding for the Cape Charles Yacht Center. We helped kick off New Ravenna. We handled the Cape Charles Main Street initiative. And then in the rest of Hampton Roads, we represent Huntington Ingalls, the shipbuilder, the Virginia Aquarium, and Gold Key PHR, who are the owners of the Cavalier at the oceanfront. Next. Here are some of the imagery that we've captured over the years. Myself and my business partner happen to have a home in Onancock on Parker Street. And Mark Atkinson is a well-renowned photographer. So we are fortunate and blessed in that we have a 10-year inventory of wonderful Eastern Shore and Onancock images that we'll be able to offer you as part of this effort. Your brand is derived from what you are, what you want to be, and what people perceive you to be. Your brand is your promise to your customer. It helps them understand what you'll be able to deliver, and it differentiates you from all your competitors. The foundation of your brand is your logo, your website, packaging, promotional materials, all of which should integrate your logo and communicate your brand. As a Main Street designation, Onancock competes on a national level, and your brand should reflect that. One of the exercises that Karen will talk about is a brand architecture model that we built with a subcommittee, and I'll turn it over to Karen.
So as a start, I want to thank just Pete and his group that we've been working with them for, as I mentioned, maybe the last 8 months. We had gotten a grant to help develop this work, and they have also done a lot of the pro bono work for us. So thank you. As part of this process, and Pete has been leading us through this, we pulled together a branding team, representative of the different stakeholders across Onancock, as well as different walks of life. So we wanted to make sure we had young families, we had older folks, we had a mix. So this was our team. and you'll see, actually, thank you. There's a couple town council people on here. Matt participated. We have business owners and just a range of people who are across Onancock. And, you know, part of the challenge with this is making sure you have a good diverse group, but not so many people that it dilutes the effort. So I think we had a really great group, and thank you to everyone, because this helped develop our work moving forward. So Pete mentioned the brand architecture. This is what we came up with, which was based on a lot of thought about the information we've been collecting over the last couple years from businesses and residents. What do we want Onancock to be? And many towns, Cape Charles, others, are very focused on tourism. Out of the work that we had done earlier, it was clear that we care as much about being for our residents as well as tourists. We want that mix. So the architecture that was developed keeps both of those audiences in mind, which makes it a little more challenging. But I think we came up with a really good product. Couple of the things that came out in our positioning is that we're quaint, we're charming, we're sophisticated, we're a year-round hub. We're also unique. We think there's no other Onancock in the world. And you'll see the core values. These were the 4 areas that out of this work, we came up with as the pillars. These are the things that really make Onancock shine and make us unique. And we'll send these out to you another point. We're not going to go through all of this. And I would say one of the big factors that also comes out that makes us unique is certainly our history. The fact that we were chartered in 1680, and again, that adds to our uniqueness. So based on this brand architecture, Pete and his group worked with us to develop a tagline and brand standards for all the marketing materials. And as Pete just explained about the importance of a brand, we need to be consistent. We need to be using the same logo, palette, words to get people feeling what Onancock is about. So when we roll this out, we will eventually, and that'll be the next steps, have some guidelines, and we need everybody to be advocates for using the same information and same colors. And you've seen this, everybody recognizes the Golden Arches because McDonald's had branded themselves. So that's what we don't want to be McDonald's, but that's what we're striving for. So what I want to show you now are the logos that were developed, tagline, as well as the color palette. And they reflect a lot of what I just talked about in just in images and words. So these were, and Pete, please chime in too if there's commentary I'm missing.
Yeah, absolutely. This is we thought it would be important to have a logo that would be appropriate for out of market as well as in market. And as Karen mentioned, history is certainly an important part of what makes Onancock, but so is its uniqueness. And that's how we arrived at the tagline, a little slice of nowhere else. And what you're looking at here is the core logo that is presented in what we call horizontal or standard fashion. And the creative thinking behind it was for 1680 to use a traditional font, but mix it with a contemporary font, which is what we're using for the word Onancock. So it's a yin and yang. And then we chose colors that will be representative of your color palette. And, and they range from slate blue to foggy gray to moss. And they're supposed to be soothing, but also very contemporary and fresh feeling. Now here you have a different presentation of the logo in which it's primarily horizontal. And then for in-market, we're using a tagline, Virginia's Eastern Shore. And the significance of this is historically, people have said the Eastern Shore of Virginia. But when it comes to slogans, the idea is to use as absolutely few words as possible. And strategically, we think it's important to differentiate Virginia's Eastern Shore from Maryland's. So we have switched the traditional phrase, the Eastern Shore of Virginia, to Virginia's Eastern Shore. And here 1680 becomes even more prominent moniker.
I have a quick question. Difference between can you explain in market, out market?
Oh, of course. If we were running an ad in New York, that would be considered out of market. If we're running an ad locally, like in an Eastern Shore publication, that would be in market. Now, we played out how an advertising concept might look. And one of the things that we've noticed over time is, number one, people have a little bit of a difficulty with the pronunciation of an Hancock. They have to hear it a number of times, I think, before they're comfortable with it. And our campaign plays off that a bit. And I'll ask Karen to bring up the first concept. We can keep going, Karen, I think, until we... Oh, the fun you'll have.
And what I love about this is because the O is just so prominent, and we're ahead of Only, but the O piece was I just think it's a great concept that we can play with in our various businesses. And that's it.
Yeah.
So Matt, I know you wanted to keep this brief. So I don't know, do we want to take any questions right now, or do you want to then move forward with the budget?
I think we can take a couple questions about if anybody has any questions about, what you all did, the concept, I don't think we need to get into the weeds about, the capital letters or, stuff like that. But any council members, questions? Anybody there? Okay. No questions? Am I still?
No questions. I think it's phenomenal.
Good.
Thank you.
I agree.
Like I said, that this is just an initial presentation. We're gonna, you think about it. If you have any questions, call Karen or, somebody on the main, or I guess Karen, you're the Main Street go-to with this, right? Yeah.
I'll send out my contact information to the council members through Lisa. And so if you have questions, please feel free to contact me.
Right.
And then you'll be seeing this again next Monday. And again, part of that is we're going to need everybody to be advocates for this, but I know I'm personally thrilled with what not just what Pete and his group did, but again, all the stakeholders, because I do think this represents us.
A comment, please.
Yeah.
A little slice of nowhere else. Is that a tagline, or is that just what you were what Pete was just saying at this point?
It's a tagline, a slogan, like our version of Coke is it, or Nike's Just Do It.
Thank you.
You can, I guess we can take that screen off of you. Yeah, there we are. Yeah. So any other council comments? Like we said, I guess the Main Street got a grant to do this. Am I correct? Yeah, from we got a sizable grant. Who did from the Main Street? Yeah. Okay. So this was paid for by not by the town, but by a grant to Main Street. Like I said, if you have any questions, call Catherine. Call Karen. I'm looking at different names up here. And then, they can fill you in on the details, and we can discuss this more. I guess the question is, we're just going to, we just have to, Main Street is, kind of a separate entity. So am I correct? And then you guys are going to, they presented it us for us to, if we want to use it, basically, or we're going to use it. So we need to.
So excuse me, Fletcher, does that mean that Main Street can present an advertising program or whatever, something of this nature, a logo and a logo and a slogan, and whether we approve it or not?
Well, no, I think we would adopt it as a town. We need to adopt it. Yeah. Yeah.
We'd have to adopt it, but do we get to approve it or say no to it?
We would adopt their presentation. Yeah. 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 I mean, if you don't like it, that's your option. Yeah. Same. Yeah. Actually, this is a town logo, not a Main Street logo. So they are presenting it to the town. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, we need to, yeah, we need to, the council needs to weigh in whether they want to list this package or not. Yes, at the meeting.
Right, and one of the things that I wanted the reason that I thought it was important that we put it in tonight's meeting was so that next week, if council does decide to adopt it, Otto can begin working on the instructions and on the color palette and on the style sheets and that type of thing, so that it can be included in website design, in exterior signage. It can be given to local businesses who might want to put it on t-shirts or hats or something like that to be sold. So it really is, council needs to adopt it in order for it to be used properly by any business or Main Street or the town itself. So it is intended to be adopted by council for use. And then if it's not used properly, we would also ask council to be able to ask businesses, let's say, for example, my inn chooses to use it in a way that's not appropriate. It would be council's prerogative to say, please discontinue using that. Do I have that right, Pete and
Yes.
Karen?
Yes.
Yeah.
So I mean,
Absolutely.
it is really important that council adopt this, and then, we also start leading the parade by using it properly and allowing others to use it properly.
Matt, are you saying that this is the finished product that we adopt?
I'm saying that I believe that it is, because the stakeholders that prepared this represented everybody from town council to local businesses to Main Street to residents. And there have been, gosh, it must be 9 months now that this product been worked on and commented on by all of those constituents. So it's not just Main Street who brought this forward. Main Street facilitated the process of bringing it forward, and it's their grant that paid for the work to occur. But this actual work product came forward from all of those constituents that were on that slide that Karen showed at the beginning.
Okay, any other questions about anything? Yeah, I mean, they did this committee did a lot of work. I mean, believe me, they went through looking at a lot of logos. It's hard, to come up with something. You have to be really creative, and I think they've done a great job. As I looked at some that someone they looked at that weren't too great, so it's and some, it's hard to do it. All right. Any other questions for anybody? Okay. All right. Well, thank you very much, Karen and Pete. That was appreciate your input and help and everything. And
Absolutely. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
Thanks, everybody.
Bye.
All right, we're going to get back to the second item. It's the main purpose of the meeting is the 2021-22 budget hearing. Matt, I'll let you take it from here.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad to do that. I think if you remember in the previous, in February 22nd's meeting, I presented to you and to the public a summary of the budget that I'm proposing for 2021, 2022. If you all remember, our fiscal year starts in July 1 and goes through June 30th. So this budget covers that span. The summary that I presented at the February 22nd meeting was then followed up by significant detail, I'm going to say 10 days ago, but I don't remember how many days ago it was, where we went line by line by line, department by department by department. I also provided salary specific information by employee, and then was able to answer questions from council members who called just to get clarification on certain items. So I'm glad to walk through it line by line by line, but I think it would be a better use of our time to just see if there's anybody who has any questions or if there are any comments or topics of conversation that we want to bring up tonight.
Matt?
Yes,
Hey,
Catherine.
And this is probably in there, and I apologize, I did not have the opportunity to sit with you prior. But
Sure.
one of the things that I have noticed over the last month or so that I think as a town, we need to make sure that we have the budget to address, and that is related to water infringement and infrastructure. There have been 4 different places that I've noticed in town that are consistently demonstrating active water, whether it's coming out from under the street, under the sidewalk. I mean, I have seen it, for example, on North Street,
Yeah.
you know, bubbling out at the end of King Street and at the end of Market Street, and then of course Jackson Street.
Right. Well, I'm honestly hoping, Catherine, to have those 4 items. I've got 4 that I'm aware of, one on King, one on Market, one on North, and one on Jackson. Those are where I see standing water. 2 of those are fresh water, 2 of those are wastewater that we're aware of. So what I'm hoping to do is get these problems resolved now that the weather is a little warmer. We've also joined an organization called Virginia Rural Water Authority, and they have leak detection and technical support so that those that we believe are freshwater, they can be a little bit more surgical with finding the leak so that we know exactly where to dig. I would say that Jackson Street is my first and most important repair, because obviously the water coming up is also doing significant damage to the asphalt. So we want to get that taken care of as quickly as possible. We actually have a support call with the VRWA Wednesday to begin that process. So the questions that you ask, I'm honestly hoping are resolved prior to this budget cycle. I'm hoping to get it taken care of in the spring and early summer.
Okay, but we have infrastructure improvement and maintenance built in. Okay,
Yes.
thank you.
I have a question, Matt. It's
Sure.
Joy. We talked about this earlier today, and it's on the introductory page of the budget. And the town reserves, which you said are not in the budget. There's no savings account as a line item, but you could give a report for our in reserves, whether it's in our savings account or our 1 to 3 fixed income year bonds. So
Correct. So I sent you a document right after you and I spoke, Joy, that outlines the 4 reserve accounts that we have and the purpose for each. Did you have a chance to review that? Because reserves, you're right, to be clear, the spending that we have in the approved budget is revenue less expenditures. When we save money over the years, that goes into our reserve. How we use that reserve is completely up to town council. So over the years, we have reserved or saved money. What I'm suggesting is that rather than try to infuse line items into our budget for grant matching that we honestly don't even know that we're going to make the application for yet. If, for example, an opportunity presents itself to apply for a clean water grant and it's asking for a 10% match, I don't know that the grant opportunity or the application exists yet, and B, I don't know how much the matching requirement is. So what my suggestion is that we give up to, and in this example on the budget, it's up to $66,667 using our savings account for grant matching up to that dollar amount. Even though it's not in the budget because we don't require any current tax dollars to fund that, I still want to be very clear that town council has the authority and approval of every grant that we apply for and every matching requirement that any grant would have. So I'll give a ridiculous example. Let's say an opportunity to apply for a grant for an airplane hangar comes up. And I say to council, I'd really like to apply for this grant. It makes, it's really good. We have a strong chance to get it. And you all look at me like, an airplane hangar? We don't need an airplane hangar. Why would we even waste our time to do that? So we would staff would present to council and say, here's a grant opportunity. This is the matching requirement. Does it align with the vision council has? If the matching requirement does match and the grant does match, then we could use the savings account that we've accumulated over time for up to the dollar amount that's here. It doesn't affect tax. It doesn't affect the budget. It's just simply how we can use a portion of our savings account. Does that make sense? I don't want to oversimplify, but.
Yes, that makes sense. However, I did not receive the email that you mentioned. So maybe you could zap that out again.
Yeah, I'm glad to. Let me do it
Okay,
right now.
great.
I did send it to town council in total, but Joy, I just sent it to you individually just now.
Yeah, got it. Thank you.
Sure.
Another question. I did notice we moved Lisa 75% to administration and 25 to water. Is that the
Correct.
first time we've done that, right?
Well, the allocation of wages has been complicated over the years.
Yes.
Typically, what ends up happening is the staff that worked for water and sewer were, and Lisa, feel free to chime in here, but they were 2/3, 1/3 from sewer to water. And then as staff time was needed, if it were allocated to balance the budget, it would be. In the case of the budget that I presented to you, it's very important that we have the allocation, because that's actually the time that's being spent. Lisa spends a lot of time making sure that the water billing is correct, that the billing itself is correct, the account adjustments are correct. Mary Ellen spends a huge amount of time, if not all of her time, working for the water department and putting meter readings in and correcting those and working with the guys that are out there taking the readings. So I think this allocation is, first of all, accurate, and secondly, representative of what's actually happening. The goal that I had for this budget was, there are strategic things like, we want to make it easier to do business in town. We want to make water rates that are understanding of different types of customers. But also, I wanted to make these financial statements very understandable, accurate, and readable. So when you look at I'm going to pick on the wharf. When you look at the wharf financial statements, you see the cost of everything to run the wharf. Same thing with the water department. I wanted every line item. So even though the allocation is a little bit different, I really wanted it to show this is what it costs to run the water department, and that we have the revenue properly budgeted to match and offset and meet those costs.
And
I will tell you that originally when I started with the town, both the position up front and mine were divided between the water and sewer fund as well as administration. But then town manager O'Cabell Lawton moved me out because the water and sewer couldn't afford the second admin person. So this is actually more representative of what does happen year after year.
Okay, thank you. And I compliment you on that. You have made this very easy to understand, Matt. Thank you.
I would add on that point, a couple of years ago when I was interfacing with our accounting firm, they made it clear that we were really at a point where we needed to do another time study of the employees and allocate their salaries accurately across different departments as they're spending their time. So I think Matt's attempt here is actually bring us in line with what the accountants recommended 2 years ago that we had not done to this point.
Okay. I had any other questions from, I have one question, Matt. It's this overall, it has to do with HRSD. If they don't come in by July 1, do we have to adopt another budget?
Yeah, what's going to end up happening is, it's a fantastic question, Fletcher, just to be clear. We are, I think, two iterations into the agreement with HRSD. Obviously, none of that happens without town council's full acknowledgement. But if you remember, we have a subcommittee that council appropriated or assigned to negotiate that contract up to the point of signature. So we have people that are working through the process of the transition to HRSD taking over our wastewater plant and collection system, to be clear. We believe that this transaction will be complete before June 30th. If it does not complete by June 30th, we will know that far enough in advance so that in May, when you adopt this full budget, there will be a separate budget for the wastewater treatment plant and collection systems. It will be balanced down to the dollar, but what we're hoping is that we won't need to use it, to be quite honest with you, that all of that will transition over to HRSD. If it does not, we have a balanced budget waiting in the wings for you to approve if need be. And it does tie to zero. Just so you know.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
I had I get a couple other questions. Workers' compensation for police, why was that not, why we haven't spent any before on that? I don't understand that line.
I'm not sure I'm understanding where you are.
You got a line item for workers' comp for the police department. It's 83.
Yeah, sorry, I misunderstood.
There's
Yeah,
no previous, there's no actual or anything before.
right. And again, the way I've tried to do this was to break out each department so that you can tell the actual costs of each department. So
Okay.
in years past, workers' comp was sort of blocked up in one department that was
It's
sort of an
admin.
insurance department.
Yeah.
Now what I'm doing is saying workers' comp for the police,
Okay, I missed
autos
that.
for the police, same thing. Building insurance for the wharf. All of those things are broken out so that we can actually see what each of these departments is costing. And you can tell workers' comp for the police department is real.
Yeah.
So is auto insurance with 5 cars. So
Yeah, I know.
I didn't want anybody to get the impression that, oh, we don't, it's all bundled in together. I really wanted to break each unit up so you could see what the true costs are.
Thank you.
Sure.
Also, I'd like to make a little push for more money for the holiday things. I know we kind of went over budget the year before, but we got cut in half this year, and we're still trying to do a couple final things, I think, to get there. And
Well, I think I have a possible solution. I'm not sure. I'm looking for faces here to see how this is received. One of the conversations that we've had in the last week was with the Waterfront Committee and the rental of the parking lot over on King Street. The rent for that is included in the wharf budget, and it's $4,800 for the year. You'll see a rent line that says $7,300 there. That's $4,800 for the parking lot and $2,500 for the M1 slip, which is the big slip right in front of the Hopkins store. The Waterfront Committee unanimously, and I completely agree, think the M1 slip is vital to our wharf operation. So that one's going to stay. $2,500 is going to stay. The question about the $4,800 is definitely one that had differing opinions. There were several Waterfront Committee members who felt that we should continue that lease for one more year because with the ramp project finishing up by mid-May, we believe that a wider ramp that's deeper, that's better constructed is going to draw more trailer and boat traffic to town. And rightly, they feel that the overflow parking would be well used. There are some others, and I am one of them, who does not believe that the use of or paying the rent for that lot is a good investment of town resources. I believe that there are, if a trailer pulls itself in there, I don't believe that they park properly, and therefore it's not going to be able to be accessed by a lot of other folks, maybe one or two others at any one time. So I don't think that this is a good investment of town resources. Having said that, and having heard the other side of that same argument at Waterfront, the owner of the property has offered, rather than $4,800, to rent it for half the year at $3,000. I think there might or should be a little bit of wiggle room in there, but let's say that it's $3,000. Fletcher, if we were to take the $1,800 that we would save from that $3,000 and transfer it over to Holiday, that would give you roughly $3,200 in Holiday. It wouldn't increase the budget, and we would still have overflow parking for the summer. I'll stop my comment there.
Yeah, I think the council, council needs to weigh in on this. It's not my decision or Matt's. I think that's somewhat of a good compromise. I went down there and looked at the parking lot, and you're right. The problem is that it's hard to mark out because there's a lot of grass. So no marking is ever going to stay there unless you spend tons of money on it.
Right.
So you get one guy in there that parks crooked, or two guys.
Yeah.
You're spending $5,000 for a few people for maybe 4 weekends a year.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's really what my opinion was. The other part of the problem I see is not just the lining of it, but it's the fence.
Yeah. And he's not
because you can't really get in there and out of there successfully with a lot of other traffic in there. So I don't think that there's going to be a lot of support for anybody that can say that they can get more than 3 trucks and trailers in there. I don't see how it could happen. So my opinion stays true. Now, I know that there's a council member who's reaching for his unmute button right now.
Yeah, well, let's get council to weigh in on that. So we need to get this line items straight. I go across. Catherine, what do you think?
I was wondering how many trailers would be able to fit into that lot and how that would be managed. So it sounds like you guys have already discussed that, and certainly if there's a way to shift some funds over to the town beautification efforts that occur around our holiday season, I think that is valuable to do.
Bob, I guess you're next on my screen here.
Yeah. Well, I was one of the ones that Matt mentioned that was in favor of giving it a try for another year. I recognize that there's shortcomings. My position is that we haven't had a quote unquote normal year at the wharf since we agreed to rent that property. And notwithstanding the issue of getting multiple trucks and trailers in there, which are legitimate, I think that you've got to plan for more just general vehicle traffic at the wharf this summer between Mallards, hopefully having more normalized year, some of the events coming back. That gives us additional parking. That said, this is not a hill that I'm willing to die on. I would like to see us give it a shot for another year with somebody actually recording how many cars are parking in there or trucks. But if it's council's will to drop it, then I get it.
What about half the compromise with doing half the year to 3,000?
Well, and that's something Matt and I discussed last Wednesday. And I think, to me, that sounds fair.
Okay.
Can I ask a question here? What is the condition of the lot? Will that affect cars? I mean, can cars safely get in and out rather than trailers? And would it not be more of an advantage to say parking for the ferry rather than trailers?
Yeah, you can. I mean, it's perfectly good for cars, but it's hard. You'd have to. I don't know
how to manipulate in and out of that. So and I see it. It's like a narrow way in for a wide place. But I'm just wondering whether if it was designated more for ferry traffic, so that people wouldn't have to come all the way uptown if there was nothing available lower. And
We actually
the
tried that last year,
rates
Mathis,
are a
but
lot,
this
no?
year, what might be interesting is now that we're going to have golf carts at the marina, maybe we could shuttle the people from the ferry back and forth rather than asking them to walk, because that was one of the things is they kind of show up 5 minutes before they're supposed to leave, drop their car and
Right.
leave. Maybe there's a way we can offer the service. So I mean, as far as the car traffic is concerned, I think you're absolutely right. I think that would be a natural solution. I also think that, you know, I mean, renting it in the wintertime doesn't make any sense anyway. So I could fully support, you know, cutting the deal in half and saying $3,000.
Well, we weren't restrictive about what thing could park there last year. You could park a car there. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, but
Yeah.
once
So I
the
think that's
trailers got in
it's a
there-
multi-use lot. Okay. I think Joy, what do you,
Well, I think that last year was a very unusual year. And I'd say give it a shot for another year and see how it goes. And then we can make a decision then. But I think the 3,000 is reasonable.
okay. Thelma? Unmute, Thelma. There you go. Okay.
Yeah, I also think that it's reasonable, the 3,000, because that, you know, we don't have as many boats coming in, or, you know, during the winter months. So it's basically like a waste of all that extra money, and the money could be used somewhere else, especially for the beautiful holiday decorations and things that the town does.
Okay. Ray, I think you're next. Are you there? Ray?
Hi. Yeah, I think we should give it another year at least.
At the reduced
Right.
rate?
At the reduced rate, yeah.
Okay.
I think the traffic will probably increase this year.
Okay. And Maphis?
Excuse me, is there any signage to say, you know, parking and enough information available to people to know that that parking exists? And, or is there a big sign on the fence that says town parking, anything?
Yeah,
Yes,
there is.
it says public parking.
Yeah.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
It says public parking there's a sign mounted on the top of the fence.
Okay, is it a big enough sign? I don't know, you know, I don't know. I haven't seen it.
It seems adequate, yeah.
Well, there probably could be some more sign. I think we talked about some signage at the wharf to direct people there. Maybe we could do a little better job on that.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some overflow parking.
Yeah. No, I think, yeah, Matt, I think Matt and Bob, thank you for kind of coming up with a compromise. I think this is the best situation. Yeah.
So you're going to take the other amount and put it into holiday. Where would I find holiday in the budget, Matt?
I
Under-
believe it is in Parks and Landscaping,
Okay.
3 lines from the bottom.
Okay,
Yes.
that's fine.
So that would go
my
from
question.
2,500 to,
4,300.
okay.
All right.
Okay, that's where my question is coming from. From the Parks and Landscaping, I see that it jumped from the 2021 budget to the 2022 budget. It jumped 239%. Why was that?
That's a great question, Ms. Gillespie. The reason it went up was because we're restructuring the operations. Once we go, and I'm calling it post HRSD, I don't know what else to call it. But the staff for the current sewer and water spend a lot of their time on street crew and on parks and landscaping, as well as on buildings and streets and water and all that. So what we've done here is we've brought it down to one person responsible for water, one person responsible for building and roads, and one person responsible for parks and landscaping. Because there wasn't a department for parks and landscaping specifically before, that's why it shows sort of a hockey stick effect. But the dollar for dollar came out of those other places where we found. So we have one,
Understand.
like the wages, for example, it's one full-time employee who I'm thrilled to say that we actually hired today, accepted the position, and is starting on Monday. No too soon, because spring is, gratefully seems to be on the horizon.
Okay.
So, yeah, that's really the issue. And we had other things like the grass cutting and the holiday decorations. Those were in other departments. And I really, like I said, I want to have each department representative of what's actually happening. So that person's going to be responsible for, his name's Walter. He's going to be responsible for holiday decorations and mosquito control and ditch cleaning and all that kind of stuff that falls straight under parks and grounds and landscaping. So that's why it's such a weird looking budget this year, but next year it'll be consistent.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we're not, at the next meeting, we won't have a public, there'll be no public hearing. There'll be the April meeting, right, for public hearing for this?
Yeah, that's right.
Yes.
What my recommendation is that we leave it completely off the March 22nd agenda so that if somebody hears something tonight, or if they want to make a public comment, they can make a public comment that we can still consider while we're doing the budget preparation. Then in April, yes, it's the formal public hearing for the budget. By then, I think you folks will have had a really good chance to look at every line item, consider everything that's going on, and then we'll be able to take public thoughts into consideration before you vote on it in May.
Okay. All right. Any other questions? There's a lot of complicated stuff. If you have on this, please, ask if you don't feel comfortable asking in front of the group, give Matt a call. He can help you out. Any questions?
I have a question.
Okay, Thelma, go ahead.
I have a question. I noticed that the budget last year jumped, like it tripled itself almost. And again, well, of course, it's going to be that way again this year. But I see where it was like the highest it ever was like $39,000.
What item are you talking about?
It jumped to 90,000.
What line item? Excuse me.
This new budget is going to be 94,000.
Which line item is
the trash revenue.
Oh, trash.
Trash, yeah.
Yeah, that we didn't.
Yeah, what happened with trash was a few
It's
years
under the
back.
revenue.
We got, yeah, thank
A
you.
few years back,
Is this money coming in?
Yeah. So a few
Is
years
this money
back,
we're going to be paying for our garbage?
yeah, we pay Davis roughly $99,000 a year to have trash service. That's about it. A few years ago, council decided to cut the bill and not cover the cost. I mean, Davis has cost us $99,000 every year. I mean, there's been no material change in the cost. So a few years back, council reduced the fee, which didn't cover the cost. What I'm suggesting is that the combination of the water, sewer, and garbage under the new rates would actually be slightly lower, but we actually generate the revenue to cover the cost to pay the garbage. That's all. It's just a basically left pocket to right pocket. The cost to a resident does not go up because they're billed for water, sewer, and trash on each bill. So if you pay $111 right now, the proposed budget would actually be, $105. And that includes the cost of garbage. The revenue for garbage covers the full cost of garbage.
But the trash is going up.
Excuse me.
The trash cost is going up.
Oh, yes.
Right, Matt?
Yeah, I mean, the bill that people are going to see is going to be less for water, less for sewer, a little bit more for trash, but their total bill is going to go down.
Yeah. But we didn't used to charge anything for trash, and then we decided to put a little money on charge a little bit, and then we took it back off. So it's a long time ago there was no trash fee at all.
Right, but it's $100,000 expense for the town. So.
Well, that's
I remember when they voted for us to pay $18 every 3 months for trash. Right. I remember that in the 90s, and then they took it off.
Well, it used to cost us about $25,000 to get it picked up, and now it's quadrupled. We used to pick it up ourselves a long time ago. Yeah. All righty. Any other questions?
Yeah, I do.
Okay, go ahead, Mavis.
Under HRSD with the sewer charges, and you're saying with our water charges and trash, the minimum bill to an individual would probably be $109. Is that what you're saying?
About 105. It would be less. Currently, it's about $112. I'm saying it would be about $105. A lot of that, though, I need to make sure we disclaim this, is based on the tiers that currently the volume, when I say tiers, I mean we charge between 0 and 3,000 gallons every other month is X. Above 3,000, below 5,000 is Y. Then above 5,000, so there's these different tiers. That's what I mean by tiers.
About the minimum.
Right. So what I'm getting at is I'm asking as part of the contract with HRSD that they adjust their tiers to be the same as ours, so that when somebody gets a water and sewer bill, it's got 0 to 3,000 gallons is X, 0 to 3,000 gallons is Y. So it's the same tier. That part of the contract negotiation is obviously not done. Our water pricing is based on the assumption that HRSD will indeed price according to those tiers.
And how confident are you? How confident are you? Because you're saying now that, I mean, if we're going to increase the cost of trash and to what the actual cost is, you're going to end up with, you could end up with a higher minimum per person.
If that ends up being the case, we're going to go back and readjust the water costs. So that what we're going to do is make every reasonable attempt to make sure that post HRSD costs for water, sewer, and garbage are less than they are currently.
Thank you.
Okay, I have two questions, Matt. One, both are under salaries at the wharf. 70% is under the wharf and 30% is under building and roads. What's the building and roads part?
Well, Craig doesn't work in the winter time down at the wharf, so we use his time down in the streets and doing building repairs. So that's where his allocated time is just differently.
Great. Okay. So he is year round then?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes.
All right. Thank you.
Anybody else? Yeah, we'll have a chance. Like I said, we'll have a chance if you have questions at the council meeting on Monday. If you between now, if you want to change something you think needs to be changed, we can't go into any kind of closed sessions if people want to discuss salaries or anything at this meeting. We'd have to do that Monday night. If anybody has any questions, it doesn't seem like anybody's any questions about salaries. Yeah. All right. Everybody else, Catherine, you're okay? Bob?
Yeah, I want to commend Lisa and Matt on putting together what is, in my tenure, the absolute best budget in terms of presentation and also getting to the right answers without putting us on the burden of the backs of the residents. So I couldn't be more pleased with this budget.
Yeah, I did. Great job. Joy, are you okay?
I am very good. Thank you. I appreciate all the work that went into it and making it easily understandable.
All right, Thelma?
Hey,
You
yes,
okay?
yeah.
Okay.
Yes, true. Very. I've been to many town council meetings, especially during their budgets, during the times they did budgets and my years ago. And my God, I've even had to tell Matt that myself. You know, it is just laid, even a child could understand it. And if an adult says they don't, then they just have a problem, because this really is, I've done budgets from when I worked for the Postal Service, and my budgets were never this explicit, so complete. And this is one, I hope and pray that Matt stays with us and not after a couple of years want to leave, because we're going to be spoiled and then we're not going to want anybody else.
Thank you, Mr. Gillespie.
All right, Ray, how are you okay?
Yeah, I'm okay. I hope in future years we can find a little money for the community center.
Yeah, for
that was slashed this year.
Yeah.
Maybe we make it up with some nice big grant for the roof.
Yeah, that would be nice. Yeah, I think that's a possibility in the future. Yeah. Maphis?
I'm fine, thank you.
Okay.
Thanks for the effort for this.
All right. All right, Matt. Well, job well done. Looks like went pretty smoothly. Anybody has any, like I said, we've got comments can be made on Monday night, public hearing in April, final vote in May. And we're still ahead of the game because we don't need to adopt it by July 1. And keep our fingers crossed that HRSD gets all settled before then. Yeah.
It will.
Yeah. All right. All right. Well, can I have a motion to close the meeting?
Motion to
So
adjourn.
moved, Mayor.
Second?
Second.
I'll second.
Okay. Did you get those, Lisa? Okay. All in favor?
Yes, I got Bob making the motion, Joy
Okay,
seconding.
all right. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
All right. Well, thank you. Well, I guess we'll see you right back here a week from today.
Okay.
And we're still up in the air about, we're still going to do virtuals we'll keep going until we hear otherwise. Joy, can you stay on for a second after we go?
Sure.
Yeah. Matt.
Thanks, everybody. Take good care.
Thanks a lot. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
I can't actually,